he is 100% a child of Iluvatar.
Yep.
Like, absolutely he is. Yeah, so that episode was fucking bananas.
Bananas.
That was like I
Bananas.
so I hate saying this. I said this on TikTok today, but I'm gonna say it again anyway. And I hate saying it because of all the douchebags. We're like, oh, it's slow. Oh, there's not enough action. The fucking action on this, holy shit! Like this episode 6, guys. Spoiler all fucking day. It was so goddamn good. Carlos, tell me what you think about it.
I'm gonna say this. I was there. There was a point in last night's episode where I was just kind of like on the edge of my seat, and I knew as I was watching this, I'm like, he's gonna survive, right? He's gonna
Oh,
survive. But like, I didn't know for sure. I was like, are they gonna do like a Game of Thrones on us and like kill him off? And then he got saved, and then I was like, okay, but she's not looking behind her. She gonna get stabbed right now.
dude, I fully
So,
thought Bronwyn was dead.
oh,
After
when
she
she
got
like,
shot with the arrow, I'm like, she's going to be the first named character to go. She's done. She's
yeah,
fucking dead. And like, had that happened, that would have changed. Like Arondir and Theo that would have
dude,
completely changed their
can
story.
can I can I ask something?
Yeah.
Did did Arondir just confirm that he's Theo's dad?
Wait, why? How?
Because remember where he's talking with Bronwyn and they're talking about like finding a place for themselves, right?
Yeah.
Him and her
Uh
and
huh.
Theo. And then he has that like father son kind of talk with him,
He does though, right? No,
right?
I think he's just stepping into that stepdad role.
But look, I'm just gonna say this, and I've heard it on Reddit as well. We've never seen Theo's ears.
Oh, we haven't. We haven't. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I haven't thought of that. Okay, so from the beginning, tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think is going on. Tell me how you felt about the show. Give it to me. Give me the
Um,
meat and give it to me raw.
give you the meat, give it to you raw. I'm not gonna give it to you raw because that's gross and unsanitary. Um, uh, I thought this was what I had expected, right? I think we had talked about this and I had told you I was like, watch these next two episodes, there's gonna be a lot that kind of happens. And there has to
Right.
be, right? It's episode 6, it's episode 7. And so we get them in the keep, right? In the tower. We already kind of knew, I think, from the last episode. This is one of the gripes that Melissa has, right, with the show. And we talked about this, and I kind of alluded to this to you before we started recording. She says it's very predictable, right? The writing. She's like, I've been.
We knew that the tower was coming down.
We knew the tower's
From
coming down,
from the
right?
end of the last episode, we
Yeah.
knew that the tower was coming down.
But it was still a fucking great action sequence,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. So if we're leading off with that though, like I don't know if you felt the same way. I've asked people and they're like, nah, not really. I felt when he fucking like locked the orcs in, I was like, shit. Like I felt bad for the orcs for a minute.
I didn't feel bad for the orcs until
His speech
his
to
speech
Galadriel.
to Galadriel,
Fuck,
right?
bro.
Also, he is the first confirmation of what Morgoth did to the elves to corrupt them, right? He
Mm-hmm.
is that corrupted elf that was tortured, brainwashed, whatever, whatever. Um and that's the outcome, right? It's
Right.
not an orc the way we know an orc. He
Right.
refers to himself as an uruk, right?
Right.
Um, and he is, right.
Multiple times
He is
pressing the idea that it is Uruk.
yeah, and he is a corrupted elf, or
Yeah.
he's a corrupted elf who is an orc.
Yep.
And that's why he is Adar, right?
Yep.
And that's why he is the father of all these other orcs, right? Who are clearly their own kind of thing. And he's even said, he's like, the same fire that's in you is in
Mm,
us, right?
dude,
And I
when
was
he
like,
says we are the children of the one,
yep,
I was like I'm sorry, and you and I have talked about this, and I've wanted to talk about this since the episode, and I'm glad we're here now. You and I have talked about this. We need to do an episode on orcs
yeah,
on our podcast, and one of the biggest reasons why is this philosophical, ethical question of and Adar. And I'm not saying Adar is the good guy. I'm not saying that Adar is right in what he's saying or what he knows. He mostly knows what Morgoth has brainwashed him with, and the bits that he has from being an elf as well, right?
right.
But that being said, he poses the question in this show of who are you to say that when I die, that when we die, we do not go to the halls of Mondos as well?
Yep.
Right? Like how are you telling me that I do not have a soul when she's like these are slaves and he's like they have names.
Yep. That got me a little bit, right?
Damn.
At that point, I was like, yeah. I mean, and that's true for any kind of conflict, right?
Yeah.
For any kind of conflict, that's somebody that somebody knows, right?
Right.
Depending on what
We're
side you're
seeing
on,
this and we're
right?
seeing this part with him. We're seeing this moment of like good or bad, right? And I'm not saying he's going about it the right way. And I actually talked about it with Lee today on one of the lives that like technically the orcs, because he even says they came down from the north, the orcs are an occupying force in the Southlands.
Yeah.
Right. But what he's doing is this is the only place and the only way that he knows to make a hospitable living environment for his children,
Yep.
his people, right? And from what we know, he doesn't want to do anything more than that. He doesn't want to rule the world. He doesn't want to go out and do all of these things. He simply wants to create a place where his people can live without being in shadow, without being under tents, without being in tunnels, without being constantly draped in clothing.
Yep.
Right. So again, like he's definitely not a good guy, but he's also not a mustache twirling villain.
It's a more nuanced villainy, right?
Right.
He's still a villain. I mean,
Yes.
he has what's the fucking I was gonna say Haldir, but it's not Haldir. Waldrig,
Yeah.
uh,
Kill a kid.
kill a kid, right?
Yeah.
To gain entry into his service,
Right.
right?
Right.
There's clearly something there with Halbrand and Adar. And depending on who you ask, it's because
He's not Sauron.
Halbrand is Sauron.
Halbrand is not Sauron.
Um,
Hashtag not my Sauron.
I really hope it's not. There's
Um, okay, so I wanted to
there's a
ask you.
lot of chatter. I have no idea who the fuck Sauron is.
So I'm going
I
all the
have
way back to the opening scene of the show. So the opening scene is Adar scooping into the dirt with his gauntlets, right?
can we just also just really quickly before you get into that, see if we can get Modelo to sponsor these.
Modelo sponsor us.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
it'd be great.
Very much. Shush. But so that opening, so the reason why I go back to that very opening scene, and then I'm going to talk about like it subsequent. The one thing, and it's not necessarily a gripe, it's simply what I'm observing,
Uh-huh.
and I can observe it, and it's very very obvious to me about the show in general is it is very obvious to me that episode 1 and 2 is J.A. Biona, that episode 3, 4, and 5 is Yip, and that this one and then 7 and 8 are also going to be her. I think her name is Charlotte. They
Yeah.
are all different directors, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And I don't like it's not necessarily bad, but like what Charlotte did with the action sequences versus what J.A. Biona and Yip did, she did it way better in my mind.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because
Wayne Yip's episodes are very beautiful, right? They're very expansive, right? They're
tons
very
of visual beauty,
yeah.
like, but even hers, dude. I'm sorry, but she could have gone, and this is not a knock on this scene, but she could have gone the same way as that horse riding scene on the beach. She could have gone like full slow motion, but she didn't. It was like 2 seconds of slow motion, and then them fucking riding full speed all out across Middle Earth, and it looked like it
Oh,
gave that scene
yeah,
gave me chills
yeah.
watching those horses just I was like, God damn it, let's
Her
go.
her chase scene too,
Oh yeah. Which
where
again could have been like if we gave it back to Bayona or Yip, it's very possible that it would have been slow motion almost the entire time.
yeah, it
But
would have been slow motion the entire time. You would have had like close-ups of different things, like maybe this like the muscles of the horse as it was running,
right,
which again is great, but I don't think it fits in with the episode. I think
right.
what she did with the episode with the
Oh my
tone that
God.
it's setting, right, is and this was in interviews that she did, is there is change. My episodes are about change. There is a big fucking change that
Yeah,
happens at the very end of this episode, right?
right.
Everything is great until they realize they did the old switcheroo,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and so I there's not a ton that we can compare because this episode was very, very action oriented, whereas the other episodes have been world building and storytelling, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. That's the most Tolkien you can be
Yeah.
is spend 3/4 of this season storytelling and world building, and then you get a little bit of action at the
Yeah.
end, right? um but like because of that, there's not a whole lot that you can judge off of like one director to the next, other than I can just tell that they're different directors.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is the few moments of dialogue in this one, um, the only times the dialogue has really hit for me is when it's Durin and Elrond.
Yep.
This episode we got none of Durin or Elrond, but there were moments where when Galadriel is talking to Isildur on the boat,
Yeah.
like that is a very good moment when she is then like after that talking to Elendil, and Elendil opens up and we find out that Isildur's mother drowned,
Yep.
right?
The sea is right.
And like fuck, dude, like that dude's got some goddamn trauma.
Yep.
And like those moments, and even the little bit that like again, not like we can't spend an entire episode of them getting to where they need to go, but I think that the director did a good job, even though it was very fast.
Yep.
Good job at showing like we're still in the ocean, but the next time you see us, we'll be on land. Like we're gonna
Well,
go all the way through this river
we're still
to
in the
basically
ocean.
like Osgiliath,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna go over.
Yeah. We're still in the ocean, but we can see land, right?
Right, right.
So we're not that far from landing, right? Or going through the river. Yeah, I don't think that didn't take me out of it. What did take me out of it a little bit with that was we're in daylight, right, with the horses, and then
Yeah.
it's nighttime, and
I
so
mean, technically, oh yeah,
that was a little for me that took me out of it a little bit, right?
because they
It's
would have been in the west. They would have got there in the west,
yeah, they
and the
would have been,
sun rises in the east.
yeah,
So
sets in the
that, yeah,
west.
so
So,
that is a little weird,
but it was full on nighttime
right?
when
Well,
they
because like in my head, I'm like, oh, well, like the sun is up where they are, and then it's gonna come up once they get there. But I'm like, no, that
yeah,
doesn't logic. That doesn't track.
the way they cut it, right? The way they cut that this episode and where they put those scenes, it was just, I get what they were doing. Maybe
Right.
they were traveling already for a day, but if you're traveling for a day at that kind of speed with horses, man,
Those those boys
those
be tired.
oh, these are some special fucking horses. So there was a lot, and so there was a lot that was really good about the episode. I think it's building up for the next one,
Mhm.
even more. Overall, the action was great. There were a lot of things that are very choreographed, though, and I did agree with Melissa on this, right? Because when Bronwyn's trying to light that torch, I was like, she's not gonna light it. This guy's gonna come up. He's gonna die,
Right.
and she's either gonna push him into it, and then
Yeah.
it's gonna light it,
I,
or
in
she's
in one way or another, the orc is gonna light it, not
yeah,
her.
yeah, it's gonna be the orc's torch that lights it, not her torch.
Right.
Her saving Arondir, right? That was a little also kind of predictable as well. The fact
Where
that was going to be a second wave of orcs too, like these are all things that kind of Melissa was talking to me
that
about.
so the second wave, yes, but did you predict that pretty much
No,
the entirety of the first wave was
was
all
gonna
people?
yeah. No, I did
Like,
not predict that. I didn't predict that. I don't know if you caught this though, because I don't think Melissa was paying attention to it. But there was the scene where just before the Numenorians arrive, and Adar is talking to Waldrag, and he's like, "I have a mission for you, or I have an assignment for you."
oh
Do you remember that scene?
no.
This was just before he gets on the horse and takes off, right?
So this would have been when he gave him the
Right. And so, like in my mind, like I saw that, and I was like, okay, well then we don't see him, and then we don't see him at all, right?
yeah.
During any of the
And
battle,
yeah.
and like he's gone. So it's just kind of like, okay,
Ooh.
like when you see him with it, then it's like, okay. And also at the end, I don't know what happened here, right? I'm not saying that this is the predictable part, but you have Adar chained, and then after or like during the explosion, they zoom back, or they pan back into the barn where he is, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Did you
I
notice
mean,
that?
he's just him. I'm sure
Well,
he just got away somehow.
did he get did he escape, or was he let loose, as as Gandalf once said,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So uh overall, I'm happy with this episode. There was a lot more in it. The call out to Yavanna as well, I think was really good.
They're doing a
The
really good
Arondir,
job at like throwing out things that they can without saying what they can't.
yeah. The
Like saying
Arondir,
that we're children of the one without saying Eru Iluvatar,
yep,
saying there's a Valar that looks over nature without saying Yavanna.
yeah.
Like,
There's a lot positive about the episode. Arondir, especially, right? I think he is running away with it, and I think he's quelling any kind of among people who aren't racists, right? There, he's quelling a lot because, fuck, man, like his elf skills in the
his fight
episode.
scenes and shit.
Oh my God, those were
Dude.
fantastic. And Melissa even she said, I said even like surprised, right? But not surprised. She was saying that you know, he's an elf, right? You could see his athleticism.
Right.
His athleticism comes through in the episode. And it's true. Like when he's up there perched on the roof and like shooting his bow, his just posture
Yeah.
as he's like firing
It's
the
just
arrow.
different.
It's different, and it's like, yeah, that's what an elf looks like when he's firing a fucking bow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I agree because you don't see you see other feats like Elendil is a good fighter.
Yeah.
Even with Halbrand, like Halbrand's a good fighter, right? All the but you've got him doing what he does, looking very elf-like, and even and again, I'm actually happy that these shots weren't done in like slow motion, but Galadriel, when she first shows up and her like fucking like coming off the horse upside down to
Yeah.
dodge arrows and stuff. I'm like, dude, let's go. Like it was just, and I'm glad that it wasn't done in slow motion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That it was all like real time type stuff. And if anybody has a problem with any of those horse scenes with Galadriel, just remember how Legolas got on a horse in the movies. just remember that scene and like
And the bad CGI,
yeah,
right? It was
it
good
was
at the
just
time, but it
like
was bad, right?
yeah.
Also, remember him skating down an elephant's trunk,
Yep.
Oliphant's trunk.
Oliphant. Um, I so there were a few really good parts. I obviously the part with Adar and Galadriel. Like I kind of like again, I don't hate her character. I actually love exactly who her character is. I kind of hated Galadriel in that moment though. right? Because she was
No
like,
chill.
I'm
No
gonna
chill.
keep you alive and murder everything you love in front of you.
That's fucking
And
dark.
like that's the thing is like she knows that he cares about these orcs. Like it's not a false love. Like he cares about these uruks. I'm gonna
Yeah.
call them uruks because it's a slur not to. Um, I mean, which again, this just shows how shitty elves are because she
Yeah.
refused to call them that. She only called them orcs, and it's just like them in this fucking Silmarillion calling dwarves Naugrim instead
Yeah.
of Khazad.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole elves. Um,
Propaganda. Elf propaganda.
but like that was a moment where I'm like, dude, like calm the fuck down, Galadriel. God damn. Like this dude
Yeah.
is obviously in pain. He's obviously also been brainwashed, but like he only knows what he knows. And what he knows is one, he is 100% a child of Iluvatar.
Yep.
Like, absolutely, he is. And two, he was the beginning of these creatures, the Uruk, whom he loves and wants to build a place for. And you're just like, no, fuck you. You have no soul. They have no soul.
They're an
They're all dead.
abomination. Yeah. They're an
I'm
abomination.
like,
They
God
deserve to
damn,
die.
Galadriel. And
Yeah.
again, this doesn't mean that I don't like her character, or that I don't like where they're going with the character. I actually really like it. At that moment, though, I was like, shit, like,
I don't
bring it home.
I
Like,
didn't
calm
feel
it down just a tad.
I didn't feel the same way, right? I think for me that scene was more the other side of it, right? Is from Adar's perspective, what the orcs mean, like, and who they are
Right.
as
Yeah.
as an entity, right? And it's like stormtroopers, right? In Star Wars, like they
Right.
probably have families, and I think there was like a robot
I mean,
chicken
that's
where
why
like,
we got Finn, right?
yeah. So there are, it's not just black and white, and that's what I think that they're getting at, right?
Right.
Things aren't just black and white.
And they're
It's
doing
not
a really good job
it's
at
not
it.
it's not just good guys versus bad guys. And yes, there's one side that is clearly out for a nefarious purpose,
Right.
right? But that's not what Adar is saying, right?
Right. And
Um,
and I actually like that better than what some of the people were like before the show came out. There were a lot of people saying like, "Oh, we might be able to get to see like orc culture, and that will help us like connect with them and stuff." No, this is better because
this is
this is
better.
a philosophical like question. Like this isn't just like a culture because like cultures can be all over the place. There's
Yeah.
no there's moral ambiguity in culture, right? But this is like a philosophical like moral question of the fate of, are these people fated the same as elves? Do they actually have the flame eternal? Like, are they a part of that?
Yeah.
Right. And you've got two sides saying one thing, and you've got one saying one thing and one the other.
Yep.
um and it's a much better argument, and it's far more compelling to make that question, right, of like, how do we see orcs and how should we see orcs, right? And it's not to say that they're the good guys, it's not to say they're not the villains. We talked about this in our Gollum episode. Gollum is essentially a fucking addict,
Yep.
but that doesn't make him a good guy. You can pity him and him still not be a good guy, right?
Right.
Like so like, yeah, it like that whole conversation I thought was just, it was so good. Like that whole part. So like that got me, especially him saying we are children of the one. Like something about that sentence like fucking gave me chills.
Yep.
And the other part that like got me was Elendil and Isildur having their moment by the horse.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, because like Isildur is very obviously holding on to some sort of thing where he feels like it is his fault that his mom is gone, right? And Elendil I don't think feels that way, but is trying to deal with the fact that she drowned and she's gone.
Yeah.
Right. And like all of that, it's just, like that moment was just so good. It was so good. I'm trying to think of things that happened in between there that I really enjoyed.
I mean, the only
Because
other,
we're getting close to the end of the episode when we're
so
talking about
yeah,
that.
and we have like about 5 minutes. And so, after the battle, we find out that, Isildur's his friend who's lieutenant, right? Or lieutenant, is going on an expedition with his dad. They're planning an expedition, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go round up the remaining orcs that kind of fled. Isildur's other friend is has
Done with
decided,
war.
I'm like, I'm done, right? Like his
Yeah.
near death experience
Yeah.
was enough for him.
He was like, this was fun, guys. I'm out.
I'm gonna
Like,
stay here and help the village. It's gonna need a lot of help, guy.
yeah. At
And
this point.
at this point, right? And then we have like a dinner, and Galadriel and Halbrand have a moment, right?
Right.
Very, for me, that was a little awkward as well,
Yeah,
right?
I've heard
Because
back and forth with it. It is what it is.
it is what it is. I really hope that they don't go that way,
Right.
right?
It was simply a moment, and I take it as it was a moment in battle, and I'll just leave it at that unless they show something else.
If they show something else, then we can talk about it. At this point, right? They could be, you can be, close with someone and not be romantically linked with
Right.
them, right? So maybe that's what we're getting. I don't know. But then he gets called by Muriel to come to the dinner, where Bronwyn recognizes the sigil that he's got on his pouch, and without missing a beat, asks him if he's their
king.
king that was promised, right?
Right.
And he's like, "Yep."
Yeah.
Basically, right? He's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah,
Yep.
sure."
There was like a moment of hesitation, and then he was like, yes.
Well, I don't know if you catch it where Galadriel looked at him and
Mhm.
like nodded her head.
Yeah. And I do think some of that is for like, Galadriel being a friend, but also this like we did all of this because we told Muriel that you were going to be the king here.
Right,
Like
right.
we got to follow through with this
And
shit. Like,
that was my only point about that. I'm not saying anything else about like what her look meant.
yeah.
And everyone just kind of, the king of the Southlands or whatever, right?
And then
And then
the
we
gates open.
and then we find out, right, that Theo was given the hilt, which isn't the hilt, because we had the old switcheroo.
Well, and we get another moment where we know that like this hilt has a similar effect as the ring. Right? So because he did not have it anymore, he felt a longing for it.
Yeah.
He felt that it wasn't there anymore. It was like this thing that like he had and now he doesn't. And so it has a similar effect as the ring, which again brings about that idea of like, was this something that Sauron was creating kind of in the same vein of I will use this to control? Because I don't think it's just a key. It's not over. That thing still is going to be a part of this story.
Possibly, but
It's
for
full on
now,
going to be a part of the story.
for now, it's just the key
No,
that opens the dam.
no, it's totally a part. They wouldn't like they wouldn't have him be like it made me feel powerful. It made like
No, there's too much. I no, I agree. I'm just joking.
yeah,
There's too much that sword hilt is able to do to not to just be a key,
right.
right? But what it is a key.
Yeah.
For the dam that's blocking the waters, which the tunnels end up feeding directly into Orodruin.
See, and that I did not guess those
No.
fucking tunnels until the water opened, and then I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like right when that happened, I was like, oh,
I was
that's
like,
what's
oh,
gonna happen right
well,
now.
I thought when the waters opened, I was like, oh shit, the entire town is gonna get like
Nope.
flooded, right?
Dropped right into those tunnels.
And then once I saw it go into the tunnels, and I was like, oh shit. I
Yeah.
was like, are those tunnels going straight to Mount Doom? And yes, they are.
Yep.
right? And that's where they end up. And apparently, when water and lava mix, it produces boom.
It's a bad thing. It's a bad idea.
It's a very bad thing, and we have just fucking
And
chaos.
it is beautiful imagery.
Uh-huh.
Like the show did such a good job with that eruption. Fucks up a bunch of people.
Yep.
Like a bunch of people just get murked
Yeah.
by lava.
By
Um,
lava and like falling rocks and debris and shit like that. And then and then that's it. I
yeah.
think it's I think
There's
it's
there's
I think it's
chaos. Everybody is running to get indoors except for Galadriel.
who's standing and waiting for the cloud. And I think she is at that moment realizing what just
What
happened.
Mordor is now.
Yeah. Like
Like
this is
what the point was.
what the point was of that map,
Right.
that
Of
symbol.
the script around the map saying
Yep.
that this was somewhere that needed to be created for like the armies of darkness to thrive,
Right.
basically.
Right.
Right.
And
And they all thought they had just won. And actually, if you go back and you watch that scene, like as it starts to erupt, the best acting in that scene when you see the whole like all of the people there is Muriel. Like Muriel's face and like what she's doing while it's erupting, I'm like, oh shit. Like she's like, what the fuck is happening? What have I brought my people into? And I think
and
maybe
it's
at that moment, she's also realizing what her father told
that's what
her,
I was about to say.
that the only thing that awaits you in Middle Earth is darkness.
Yep.
Right.
Her father saw what was going to happen.
Yeah.
100% her
Yeah.
father saw it. And that's why he told her, do not go to Middle Earth.
Right.
And that's the end of the episode.
That's the end. And it ends wonderfully. Oh, it's so good. I'm going to watch it like 4 more times over the weekend. it was I thought it was so great.
Yeah.
And we're going to move into what the fallout of that means. The
Yep.
fact that we have Mordor now, right? A few of the things that were confirmed is the fact that we didn't need Halbrand's blood for Mordor, like
Good
I
theory.
thought.
Good theory, though.
I still think that he's gonna die by the end of this season. I think
And you know what? I kind of hope so.
I think we're done with Halbrand by the end of this season. I don't
And
know exactly what it means at that point, but I think that's gonna happen. We also, it was shown that they are on the same timeline.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
At least these 2 stories, like there can still be an argument made for the other ones, right? But at least these 2 stories are on the same timeline.
I think they're all on this. I think we're all on the same timeline.
I agree, because I actually think on the next episode we're gonna see the Harfoots see the explosion of Mount Doom and be like, "What the fuck?" And what's his name, Sadik? Search through his little papers and there'll be a little eruption on there or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's
2 more episodes.
2 more episodes.
And then we have to wait like what, a year and a half, 2 years? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know when the second season's coming out. An annoying amount of time.
Wonder if they're gonna have another premiere.
That would be awesome. Invite us.
Invite
us this time.
We need to get our numbers up.
We'll go to the LA one. We'll go to the New York one. I don't give a fuck where we go. We'll go somewhere.
Get us tickets to the LA one, Amazon.
Yeah. We're still not that popular, but we're getting there, you know. More people know us. More people know us for sure. Yeah. People are listening to us.
Overall, right? So from the layperson's perspective who knows nothing about Lord of the Rings, right? Melissa's still enjoying the show. Her complaints are with the writing, right? She's like, it's very Hollywood, right? And that's partly because Amazon wants to appeal to everybody, not
broad
just
audience.
Not just the people who are into Tolkien. You know, to her point, and I kind of agree. If it was being done by Amazon or Showtime, or not Amazon, but HBO or Showtime or Stars, right? You might have more risks. She said they're not taking enough risks, right?
Okay.
With the show. Those are some of her criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna talk to her about her criticisms next time, because I already talked to her, and so trying to like re-record that. She's not a re-recorder. She doesn't watch things over.
Yeah.
We're gonna have our own. I'm gonna have my own little discussion with her I'll give that to you.
Yeah, I
And
like it.
we'll throw the audio up, and I'll try to make it as interesting as I can.
I do think, again, from the layperson's perspective, I do think that this episode did a decent job at answering some questions, though.
Yeah.
A lot of questions were built up and put out there, right? And it's taken, 6 episodes now to kind of answer some of those.
Yeah, I don't think she's confused with anything, right? Or it's not making sense. Again, like, and I don't know if I mentioned this when we talked on the last episode about the mithril thing, and I think I might have mentioned it with the history. I asked her, I'm like, what did you think about that? She's
Uh,
like, that made complete sense to me.
she's like, yeah, that's
She's
cool.
like, oh yeah, like that story was like, okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's the thing. It's like for us who like know this stuff, right? It's like, no, what are you talking about? It's
right,
not, and it's like no one said it was in a fucking tree,
right.
right? It was in the ground, right? Things can grow in the ground, and then
Yeah,
if you're in a mountain range, right? The mountain range gets pushed up, things get pushed up. So if it still
yeah.
be a Silmaril, you don't know. You weren't
Right.
there.
I mean, like that's the
Anyways,
thing is like
that's
that's
my
the
rant
nice
for
thing though
Wednesday.
is when we're talking about that, right? And we're talking about the person that is not the lore master, the person who is maybe only seen the Peter Jackson or even only just read the books, like they're not gonna care, like they're not gonna
Or
know
or is married to someone
who's a fucking nerd.
who forces them to watch this shit
Yeah.
on Thursday nights.
No, so overall, I think this one was a great episode. I thought it was really good. I thought it wrapped up some good questions. I thought it focused really well. It did the idea of like focusing on one story,
Yeah.
right?
This was the Southland story, right?
Yeah,
Even
and we
though we
needed
have
that.
Numenor coming
Yeah.
across the street, this was mainly the Southland story.
Yeah, we
Um,
and we needed that. We
yeah,
needed something like that, very focused on what this was. This next one is going to have more, right? We're definitely going to have the Harfoots. We're going to have Elrond and Durin. Like this next one's going to have more.
yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see kind of where they're going. We've got 2 more episodes. That's all we've got. That's all the time we've got for this recap. It was a great episode. I think the story is moving along really well. So, follow us, guys, on TikTok, on Instagram. We are on Patreon. We've got a Patreon that I actually have been throwing these up the last few days. I've been putting our outlines up on the Patreon as well. So we are at the underscore Swolhirrim pretty much everywhere. And on our Instagram, you can actually go to our link tree. I still haven't set up the link tree on TikTok. I'll get around to that. And on the link tree, we've got our Patreon, our YouTube, and we've got our merch, which neither of us are wearing right now. But we've got our merch on there as well. So follow us, engage. I've been doing more lives because this has been a lot of fun, and it's like the episodes are great, and it's just fun to talk about this shit.
I jumped on a live once.
Huh?
I jumped on a live once, one of Callie's lives.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
nice. So yeah, I mean that's really it, guys. Everybody, I said guys, I'm sorry. I need to correct myself, and it's Uruk,
Y'all,
not orcs.
y'all.
So thanks everybody, and Carlos, you got anything else for us?
Bye.